Hollywood once celebrated Teyana Taylor as one of its most exciting and versatile talents. She seemed to represent the type of artist the entertainment world loves to highlight, someone who could move smoothly between different creative fields. She earned awards, appeared in magazines and interviews that praised her abilities, and was often described as a multi-talented performer who could sing, act, dance, and direct. Her career appeared to be rising quickly. At one point, she even received a nomination at the Golden Globe Awards, a recognition that signaled she had stepped into a higher level of Hollywood respect. During that period, everything looked promising. She was landing acting roles that created real excitement in the industry, and some critics even predicted that she could become a serious contender during awards season. She also worked with powerful creative figures, including television producer Ryan Murphy, whose projects often place artists in the spotlight. With opportunities like these appearing one after another, it seemed as if Hollywood had fully embraced her. But beneath all the praise and recognition, there was a quiet reality that many observers began to notice. Even with the success, the attention, and the opportunities, one thing always seemed to be missing from Taylor's career: complete creative control. She was respected as a performer, but the final decisions about her work often remained in the hands of executives, studios, and record labels. According to comedian and commentator Katt, that missing piece might explain why her relationship with the industry has always been more complicated than it appears. In his view, the moment Taylor started stepping behind the camera and making her own choices creatively, the way Hollywood saw her may have begun to shift. Williams has suggested in interviews and public conversations that the entertainment industry is not always threatened by celebrities who speak loudly about problems. In his opinion, the real concern sometimes comes from people who understand the system from the inside. These are artists who have spent years observing how things really work behind the scenes. They know how deals are made, how influence moves, and how careers can be shaped or slowed down. From that perspective, Williams believes Taylor fits that description almost perfectly. She entered the business at a young age and spent years working inside powerful creative spaces. Because of that experience, she had the chance to watch the machinery of entertainment operate up close. To understand why this idea resonates with many people online, it helps to look closely at how unusual her career path actually is. In most cases, Hollywood prefers artists to stay in one specific lane. Someone is usually known primarily as a singer, an actor, or a director. Moving between those areas does happen, but the system itself tends to encourage specialization. There are practical reasons for that structure. When artists focus on a single role, they remain more dependent on studios, record labels, and executives for their next opportunity. That dependence keeps the power balance clear. If someone needs the system in order to continue working, the system naturally holds influence over their career. But Taylor never followed that traditional pattern. Her story began in the neighborhood of Harlem in New York City. As a teenager, she caught the attention of music producer Pharrell Williams. Being discovered so young meant that she entered professional creative spaces long before many artists her age even started thinking about a career in entertainment. While most teenagers were still learning about the industry from a distance, Taylor was already participating in it. She spent time around established performers, producers, and executives. Those early experiences gave her a chance to learn how the business actually operates behind closed doors. Early in her career, she even worked as a choreographer for Beyoncé, helping develop performances that later reached millions of viewers. For many artists, that opportunity alone would have been a defining achievement. But her journey did not stop there. She eventually joined one of the most influential creative circles in modern hip-hop when she signed with the Good Music label created by Kanye West. Being part of that environment was about far more than recording songs. Good Music operated as a cultural hub where music, fashion, design, and business ideas blended together. Inside that world, artists were exposed to a wide range of creative discussions. Projects were planned carefully, brand identities were shaped, and long-term strategies were often debated behind the scenes. Many people who worked within that circle described it as an intense environment where creativity and business constantly overlapped. For most artists in that position, the natural focus would have been their own music. Yet people who knew Taylor have often said she paid attention to much more than her personal projects. She observed everything happening around her. She watched how conversations unfolded during meetings, She saw how deals were structured and how decisions were made about which artists would receive major promotion and which ones would quietly move into the background. Those experiences allowed her to learn lessons that many performers never get the chance to see. While the public mainly recognized her as a singer and performer, insiders understood that she was also absorbing valuable knowledge about the industry itself. That understanding would later become one of the most important parts of her career. Before the awards, the acting roles, and the directing opportunities, however, there was a moment when it seemed like her voice might be pushed aside entirely. In 2020, Taylor shocked fans when she suddenly announced that she was stepping away from music. The announcement came at a time when many listeners believed she was still building momentum in her career. At first, the story appeared simple. Some media outlets described her decision as the result of creative frustration or exhaustion. The explanation sounded familiar because artists often talk about burnout after years of demanding schedules. But as more details emerged, the situation appeared more complicated than that early narrative suggested. Taylor later revealed that she had asked her label, Def Jam Recordings, to release her from her contract several times. According to her statements, she had made the request repeatedly, reportedly around 10 different times. Each request was ignored. That revelation raised important questions about how much freedom artists truly have once they sign major recording agreements. On paper, a contract often looks like a partnership between a performer and a company. In practice, however, those agreements can sometimes limit an artist's ability to move forward with new ideas. Williams has pointed to that moment as an example of how the entertainment business often protects its own interests first. From his perspective, Taylor's retirement announcement was not simply a personal choice. Instead, he suggested it might have reflected deeper struggles with the structure of the industry itself. Eventually, Def Jam did allow her to leave the contract. But by that point, valuable time had already passed. In entertainment, timing can make a huge difference. Momentum matters. When a performer disappears from the spotlight for too long, it can slow down even a strong career. Many observers expected Taylor to fade away quietly after that period. Instead, she surprised people by taking her creativity in a completely different direction. Rather than focusing only on music again, she shifted her attention toward filmmaking and directing. That decision changed the entire dynamic of her career. Acting and singing place artists in front of audiences, but directing places them in a position where they shape the story itself. A director decides how a narrative unfolds, which moments receive the most emphasis, and what message the audience ultimately takes away. By the time 2024 arrived, conversations about power inside Hollywood had grown louder across social media and entertainment news. During that period, Williams began speaking openly about what he believed were hidden systems operating behind the scenes in the industry. His comments sparked debates about who truly controls the narratives people see in movies, television, and music. Some fans agreed with his claims, while others questioned them. Regardless of which side people took, the conversation spread quickly online. As those discussions continued, Taylor's name began appearing more often in the debate. She was not making accusations herself, but many people realized she had spent years working inside the same circles Williams was describing. She had seen how contracts were negotiated. She had observed the way influence moves through the business. And now she was stepping into a role that gave her a completely new type of authority. The difference between being in front of the camera and directing behind it is enormous. Performers often have teams that guide their schedules, shape their public image, and manage interviews or social media posts. Many decisions pass through layers of advisors and managers. Directors, on the other hand, operate with a different kind of influence. They guide the creative vision of a project. They determine how a story is told and what perspective the audience experiences. That level of creative authority is rare. When someone who understands the industry deeply gains that kind of power, it can make certain executives uncomfortable. Taylor's directorial debut, a film titled Get Light, quickly attracted attention when it was announced. The project was connected to Paramount Pictures and drew inspiration from the culture and community she grew up in. The film promised to tell a story that rarely receives major studio support. On the surface, it looked like a major breakthrough for a rising filmmaker who was bringing a fresh voice into mainstream cinema. But according to Williams, moments like this can sometimes create tension behind the scenes. Filmmakers have long used their work to express ideas that might never be spoken directly in interviews or press conferences. Cinema has always been a powerful language. Directors often hide symbolism within their scenes, adding layers of meaning that audiences gradually discover over time. In many communities, especially within Black cinema, storytelling techniques like this have historically allowed artists to challenge powerful institutions without confronting them openly. Images and dialogue can carry deeper meanings, and viewers who understand the context recognize the message beneath the surface. If a filmmaker with deep industry knowledge chooses to communicate through that kind of storytelling, the results can be unpredictable. According to Williams, that possibility alone can make certain decision-makers uneasy. Recently, fans began noticing something unusual about the rollout of Get Light. The promotional schedule that once generated excitement appeared to slow down. Updates became less frequent, and marketing activity seemed to pause. In Hollywood, delays happen all the time. Movies are postponed for many reasons: scheduling conflicts, additional filming, budget adjustments, or shifting studio strategies. None of those issues are particularly unusual. However, when a project that once had strong momentum suddenly becomes quiet, speculation often follows. Around the same time, reports surfaced that Taylor's relationship with actor Aaron Pierre had quietly ended. Public explanations described the breakup as the result of demanding schedules and the pressure of busy careers. That kind of explanation is common in Hollywood. Yet the timing caught the attention of online communities that were already discussing Williams' comments about industry power dynamics. For many observers, the overlapping stories created a wave of curiosity. None of the events proved that anything unusual was happening behind the scenes. But the internet has a way of connecting dots and asking questions whenever several developments appear at once. Some fans simply see Taylor as an artist who is evolving and exploring new creative directions. Others believe her experiences reveal something larger about how the entertainment business works. Regardless of which interpretation people choose, one thing is clear: Taylor's career has never followed a predictable path. From a teenager discovered in Harlem to a performer working with some of the most influential names in music and film, she has moved through many different corners of the industry. Now, as she continues exploring filmmaking and storytelling, her next chapters may shape how audiences understand her legacy. For years, people admired her for her talent on stage and on screen. Today, many are watching to see what she will create when she controls the story herself.